street-level drug dealer or an international drug kingpin. We are coming for you. We will find you, and you will be.
This morning, the United States Department of Justice confirmed what many feared, but few dared to speak aloud. The justice system itself had been purchased, not influenced, not compromised, purchased. 35 members of Arizona's judicial system, including 3 sitting judges, have been arrested on federal charges of racketeering, obstruction of justice, narcotics conspiracy, and providing material support to transnational criminal organizations. This is the largest judicial corruption takedown in modern American history, and what you're about to hear is worse than anyone imagined, because this wasn't about a few dirty officials taking bribes. This was about rewriting the law from the bench. This was about turning courtrooms into cartel safe houses. This was about a system where justice could be bought, sentences could be erased, and the most dangerous criminals in the Western Hemisphere walked free with a judge's signature. And it all started with one raid, one location, one discovery that would bring the entire operation into the light. 3:47 a.m. Phoenix, Arizona. The air is cool and still, the kind of desert quiet that makes every sound feel louder than it should. Streetlights cast long shadows across empty parking lots. A few late-night trucks rumble down the I-10 corridor, but beneath that surface, calm, something is moving. FBI tactical units, DEA strike teams, ICE Homeland Security Investigations agents, over 200 federal operators converging on 12 locations simultaneously across the Phoenix metro area and southern Arizona border counties. No sirens, no lights, just coordination, silence, and speed. The primary target is a luxury estate in Paradise Valley, one of the wealthiest zip codes in the state. Tall iron gates, manicured desert landscaping, a sprawling compound with views of Camelback Mountain. The home belongs to Judge Marcus Aldrin, a sitting Superior Court judge with nearly 2 decades on the bench, respected, connected, untouchable until tonight. At exactly 3:47 a.m., agents breach the front gate with a hydraulic ram. Flashbangs detonate in the courtyard. The front door comes off its hinges. Black-clad agents flood the interior, weapons raised, voices sharp and commanding. Judge Aldrin is pulled from his bedroom in a silk robe, hands zip-tied behind his back, still half asleep and already trying to invoke his judicial authority. But authority means nothing when the evidence is already in federal hands. Inside the estate, agents find what they came for: a private office on the second floor, floor-to-ceiling law books, a mahogany desk, and beneath that desk, a concealed floor safe. Inside the safe, they recover over $380,000 in cash, bundled in vacuum-sealed plastic, offshore account statements, encrypted smartphones, and a leather-bound ledger with handwritten entries dating back 7 years. Every entry is a case number, every case number is followed by a dollar amount, and every dollar amount corresponds to a cartel-linked defendant whose charges were reduced, dismissed, or never filed at all. But that's just the beginning. Simultaneously, agents are hitting a courthouse annex building in Maricopa County. They move through dimly lit hallways, past administrative offices, into a records storage room that should be locked and secured. Instead, they find 2 court clerks inside, frantically shredding documents. Agents tackle them to the ground. The shredder is still running when they pull the plug. On the floor, half-destroyed case files. On the desks, external hard drives being wiped in real time. They stop the wipe, they seize the drives, and they recover what the clerks were trying to erase: digital copies of dismissed indictments, altered arrest warrants, modified sentencing recommendations, and communication logs between court officials and encrypted cartel contacts using coded language like package delayed, client secured, and route clear. This isn't negligence, this isn't bureaucratic error, This is deliberate, coordinated, judicial sabotage. 40 minutes south, near the border town of Nogales, agents raid the home of a county magistrate judge. They find him trying to flee out the back door with a duffel bag containing $200,000 in cash and a loaded Glock 19. He's tackled in the backyard. The duffel bag spills open. Inside, bundles of hundreds, cartel communication phones, and handwritten notes referencing tunnel shipments and clearance windows. By sunrise, 12 locations have been secured, 35 individuals are in federal custody, and investigators are staring at a network so vast, so deeply embedded, that it makes every conviction, every sentencing hearing, every ruling from the past decade look suspect. This is not the justice system being infiltrated. This is the justice system being operated as a cartel asset. 8:14 a.m., FBI Phoenix Field Office, Cyber Forensics Division, a secure lab filled with monitors, encrypted servers, and analysts who haven't slept. They've been working through the night, cracking phones, decrypting hard drives, and mapping the network that Judge Aldrin and his co-conspirators tried to hide. And now they found it on the main screen, in a digital web, hundreds of nodes, connections between judges, court clerks, public defenders, bail bondsmen, and prosecutors, shell companies registered in Delaware and Nevada, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Panama, fake consulting firms with no employees and no offices. And at the center of it all, a single operational code name buried in encrypted files. Operation Blindfold. It's not a federal operation, it's a cartel operation. A master plan designed and executed by Mexican cartel networks operating across the Arizona border to neutralize the one system that could destroy them. The courts. Analysts trace the financial flows, payments routed through sham law firms, retainers paid to public defenders who never showed up to trial, bail reduction fees funneled to magistrates who set bonds so low that cartel lieutenants walked out of detention within hours. And at the top, a core group of 3 judges who had the authority to dismiss cases, suppress evidence, and seal records. Judge Marcus Aldrin, Judge Elena Vargas, a family court judge in Pima County, and Judge Ronald Hastings, a criminal court judge in Yuma County. Together, they controlled the judicial outcomes for over 60% of cartel-linked cases filed in Arizona over the last 6 years. Their digital signatures are on everything: dismissals, suppression orders, bail reductions, sentence modifications. Every move designed to protect cartel operations, keep operatives on the street, and ensure that no major prosecution ever made it to trial, and the cartel paid them well. Over $8 million in combined payments across the 3 judges, laundered through fake legal consulting contracts, real estate purchases, and cryptocurrency wallets that were supposed to be untraceable. But nothing is untraceable when the FBI is looking. Analysts pull up the case histories, hundreds of defendants, thousands of pounds of narcotics connected to cases that were dropped or reduced: cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, fentanyl. Over 2 million fentanyl pills linked to trafficking cases that never made it past arraignment because evidence was ruled inadmissible or witnesses suddenly became unavailable. Human trafficking cases dismissed on technicalities, migrant smuggling operations shut down by Border Patrol, only to see the organizers released within 72 hours because a judge ruled the detention was unlawful. Drug tunnel discoveries that led to arrests, followed by immediate bail and disappearance. One analyst pulls up a specific case: a cartel lieutenant arrested with 40 kilos of cocaine and $300,000 in cash during a highway interdiction, charged with trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy. Maximum sentence, life in prison. But 6 weeks later, the case is dismissed, evidence suppressed. The arresting officer's report is called into question. The defendant walks free. The judge who signed the dismissal, Marcus Aldrin, the defense attorney who filed the motion, a lawyer later discovered to be on a cartel retainer paid through a shell company registered in Nevada and funded by offshore accounts traced back to cartel financial networks. This is not corruption. This is command-level collusion. This is the justice system being used as a cartel defense mechanism. And it goes deeper because the judges didn't work alone. They had support, inside support, from the people who were supposed to be enforcing the law. 6:32 a.m., Federal Building, Phoenix, Joint Task Force Command Center. A massive digital map dominates the wall, showing Arizona from the northern plateaus down to the Mexican border. Red markers pulse across the map. Each one represents a location tied to Operation Blindfold. Each one is a target, and today they're taking them all. Over 1,000 federal agents, 50 SWAT teams, ICE HSI tactical units, DEA mobile enforcement groups, DHS border security assets, U.S. Marshals fugitive task forces, and air support, Black Hawk helicopters, staging out of Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, U.S. Customs and Border Protection drones monitoring border corridors, even coordination with U.S. Army assets stationed at Fort Huachuca for surveillance and intelligence support. The operation is called Gavel Down, and it's the largest coordinated federal takedown on Arizona soil since the disbandment of the Aryan Brotherhood prison network in the early 2000s. The mission is simple: dismantle every piece of the cartel's judicial protection network, arrest every corrupt official, seize every asset, and shut down every operation that relied on the system being broken. At exactly 6:45 a.m., the strikes begin. In Tucson, agents storm a law office near the federal courthouse. The office belongs to a defense attorney who represented over 40 cartel-linked defendants in the past 3 years. Inside, they find encrypted servers, burner phones, and a vault containing nearly $500,000 in cash. The attorney is arrested while trying to delete files from a laptop. The laptop is seized, the files are recovered, and they show direct coordination with cartel contacts to manipulate court schedules, bribe court clerks, and delay trials until witnesses could be intimidated or eliminated. In Yuma, a bail bondsman's office is raided. Agents find records showing that bonds were being paid with cartel money routed through fake family members and shell companies. The bondsman had processed over 200 releases for cartel operatives, many of whom disappeared immediately after posting bail. He's arrested, his assets are frozen, his business is shut down. In Nogales, agents hit a county courthouse and arrest 4 court clerks who had been altering case files, deleting arrest records, and providing advance notice of raids to cartel contacts. One clerk had been paid over $300,000 over 4 years. She lived in a modest apartment and drove a 10-year-old sedan, but she had offshore accounts in Belize and property in Mexico purchased under her sister's name. In Phoenix, agents raid the office of a deputy public defender who had been assigned to over 60 cartel cases. His job wasn't to defend his clients. His job was to lose slowly, to drag out proceedings, to force continuances, to give cartel networks time to move product, relocate operatives, and eliminate witnesses. He's arrested at his desk. His case files are seized, and they reveal a pattern of intentional failure so consistent that it could only be deliberate. But the biggest raid happens just outside Phoenix in a luxury subdivision near Scottsdale. Agents surround a gated estate belonging to a senior prosecutor in the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. a prosecutor who had access to every major drug case in the county, a prosecutor who had the power to approve or reject charges, negotiate plea deals, and recommend sentences, and a prosecutor who had been on the cartel payroll for 8 years. Agents breach the compound. They find the prosecutor in his home office, sitting in front of a laptop with a hammer in his hand, about to destroy the hard drive. He's tackled before he can swing. The laptop is seized, and on that laptop, they find everything. Case strategies shared with cartel attorneys, witness lists leaked before trials, evidence logs sent to cartel contacts so they knew what had been seized and what could be moved, and payment records showing over $4 million transferred to the prosecutor through fake consulting contracts, real estate deals, and cryptocurrency wallets. He wasn't just protecting the cartel, he was managing their legal defense from inside the prosecutor's office. By 2 p.m., the operation is complete. 35 arrests, over $12 million in cash and assets seized, 14 properties frozen, 9 vehicles impounded, and enough digital evidence to build federal cases that will take years to fully prosecute. But the evidence also reveals something worse, because the corruption didn't just live in the courts. It lived in the system that was supposed to investigate the courts. 4:18 p.m., FBI Phoenix field office. Investigators are reviewing internal communications seized from the judge's encrypted phones, and they find something that makes their blood run cold. Warnings. Advance warnings of federal investigations, warnings sent from inside law enforcement. The messages are brief, coded, but clear. Audit incoming, file review scheduled, grand jury active. Every message timed perfectly to give the judges and their network enough time to clean up, delete records, and cover their tracks. The messages came from 3 sources: a detective in the Phoenix Police Department's organized crime unit, a senior agent in the Arizona Department of Public Safety, and a supervisory officer in the U.S. Marshals Service. All 3 were being paid by the cartel. All 3 had access to federal case files, investigation timelines, and grand jury schedules. And all 3 had been leaking that information to the judicial network for years. It's a betrayal that cuts deeper than money, because these were the people who were supposed to protect the system, the people who swore an oath, the people who wore the badge, and they sold it. Federal investigators move fast. All 3 are arrested within hours. Their homes are raided, their financials are frozen, and the evidence is overwhelming. Bank deposits that match the timing of leaked warnings, encrypted communication with cartel contacts, offshore accounts funded by the same shell companies that paid the judges. One of the officers, the DPS agent, tries to justify it during his interrogation. He says the system was already broken. He says the cartels were going to win anyway. He says he was just trying to survive, but survival doesn't look like $500,000 in offshore accounts. Survival doesn't look like selling out every honest officer who risked their life to make an arrest, only to watch the case get dismissed because a judge was paid or a prosecutor leaked the strategy. Survival doesn't look like betrayal. And now investigators are forced to confront an ugly truth. They don't know how many cases were compromised. They don't know how many cartel operatives are walking free because a judge was bought or a prosecutor was paid. They don't know how many tons of narcotics made it through Arizona because the justice system had been turned into a cartel checkpoint. But they're about to find out. Over the next 72 hours, federal prosecutors and FBI analysts begin the largest case review in Arizona history. Every case handled by the 3 judges over the past 6 years. Every case prosecuted by the corrupt deputy prosecutor, every defendant represented by the paid defense attorneys, thousands of cases, tens of thousands of pages, and the patterns are devastating. Drug trafficking cases dismissed at rates 3 times higher than the state average, sentencing recommendations reduced to probation or time served in cases involving multi-kilo cocaine seizures and fentanyl distribution networks, bail set at levels so low that cartel operatives could post bond and vanish within hours, evidence suppressed in cases where the seizures were lawful, the arrests were clean, and the probable cause was ironclad. One case stands out, a cartel-linked trafficking network operating along the I-10 corridor between Phoenix and Tucson. Over 18 months, the network moved an estimated 6 tons of methamphetamine, 2 tons of cocaine, and over 2 million fentanyl pills into the United States. Border Patrol interdictions, DEA surveillance, ICE investigations, dozens of arrests, but almost none of the arrests led to convictions. Cases were dismissed, charges were reduced, sentences were minimal, and the network kept operating. Why? Because every case was funneled through Judge Marcus Aldrin's courtroom. Every prosecutor was the corrupt deputy. Every defense attorney was on the cartel payroll. The network wasn't just protected, it was insulated, wrapped in judicial armor that made it nearly untouchable until now. Federal prosecutors announce that they will be reopening over 300 cases tied to the corrupt judges and officials. Some defendants will be rearrested, some will face new charges, some will be deported, and some cases, the ones where evidence was destroyed or witnesses are no longer available, will be lost forever. That's the cost of corruption, not just money, not just reputation, lives, families, communities, because every case that was dismissed, every dealer who walked free, every kilo of fentanyl that made it onto the streets, that's someone's kid who overdosed, that's someone's neighborhood that became a war zone, that's someone's family that was destroyed, and the people who were supposed to stop it, the judges, the prosecutors, the officers, they chose money instead. But the operation also reveals something even larger. Because the Arizona network wasn't isolated, it was part of a system. Investigators traced the financial flows beyond Arizona. The shell companies that paid the judges, they're registered in Nevada, Delaware, and Wyoming. The offshore accounts, they're linked to money laundering networks operating across California, New Mexico, and Texas. The cartel contacts, they're part of a transnational criminal syndicate with operations in Mexico, Central America, and distribution networks reaching as far as the East Coast. The Arizona Judicial Network wasn't just protecting local operations, it was protecting a continental drug pipeline, a supply chain that moved narcotics from cartel production zones in Mexico through Arizona border corridors into distribution hubs in Phoenix and Tucson, and then out across the country through trucking routes, freight logistics, and commercial transportation networks. And every step of that pipeline was protected. Border agents who looked the other way, checkpoint officers who waved trucks through, prosecutors who dropped cases, judges who signed dismissals, all of it coordinated, all of it paid for. All of it designed to keep the product moving and the money flowing. One analyst describes it as a parallel legal system, a system where the law still existed on paper, but in practice, it had been rewritten, where cartel operatives knew they could operate with near impunity because the consequences had been neutralized, where the courtroom wasn't a place of justice, it was a place of transaction. And the cost? Staggering. Investigators estimate that the Arizona Judicial Network allowed over 15 tons of cocaine, 8 tons of methamphetamine, and over 5 million fentanyl pills to move through the state and into the national drug market over a 6-year period. The street value, over $2 billion. The human cost, incalculable. Because fentanyl doesn't just kill users, it kills communities. 2 milligrams is a lethal dose. 5 million pills is enough to kill hundreds of thousands of people. And every pill that made it through Arizona, because a case was dismissed or a judge was paid, that's blood on the hands of the people who were supposed to protect the system. Federal prosecutors make it clear this is not just about corruption, this is about complicity in mass death. And the charges reflect that. Racketeering, conspiracy to distribute narcotics, obstruction of justice, providing material support to a criminal enterprise, and in some cases, charges that could carry life sentences. Because when you put on a robe, when you take the bench, when you swear to uphold the Constitution and administer justice without bias or favor, you're not just taking a job, you're taking a sacred responsibility. And when you sell that responsibility, when you turn the courtroom into a marketplace, you're not just corrupt, you're a traitor to every principle the system was built on. And now the system has to rebuild. In the weeks following the arrests, the Arizona judicial system undergoes emergency reforms. Special prosecutors are brought in from outside the state to review active cases. Federal judges are assigned to handle cartel-linked prosecutions. Court clerks and administrative staff are subjected to background checks and financial audits. And a new oversight board is established to monitor judicial conduct and flag suspicious patterns in case outcomes. But the damage is done. Public trust in the courts, already fragile, is shattered. Defense attorneys are filing motions to dismiss cases based on judicial misconduct. Victims' families are demanding retrials. And communities that relied on the justice system to protect them are left asking the same question. If the judges can be bought, who can we trust? It's a question without an easy answer. Because corruption at this level doesn't happen in isolation. It happens because systems allow it, because oversight fails, because people look the other way, because ambition, greed, and fear are more powerful than duty. And it happens because the cartels understand something that most people don't. Power doesn't always come from violence. Sometimes it comes from silence. Sometimes it comes from a signature on a piece of paper. Sometimes it comes from a judge who decides that justice is negotiable. And when justice becomes negotiable, the system doesn't just break, it inverts. The criminals walk free, the innocent suffer, and the people who are supposed to protect the law become the ones who destroy it. But here's what the cartels didn't count on. Federal investigators don't negotiate, they don't look the other way, and they don't stop. The arrests in Arizona are just the beginning. Federal task forces are now reviewing judicial corruption patterns in New Mexico, California, and Texas. Financial analysts are tracing cartel money flows through court systems in Nevada and Colorado, and prosecutors are building cases that will take years to fully prosecute, but will dismantle the networks that tried to turn the justice system into a cartel asset. Because this is not just about Arizona, this is about every courtroom, every judge, every official who thinks they can sell justice and walk away. They can't. And the message from the Department of Justice is clear. If you're on the bench, if you're in the system, if you've taken an oath, you will be held accountable. No exceptions, no immunity, no protection. The gavel has come down, and this time it's final. If you're still watching, tap like so. This story reaches every person who believes the system can't be fixed. Share this with anyone who thinks corruption only happens in other countries. Comment justice if you believe these officials deserve the maximum sentence, and subscribe because this investigation is far from over, and the next part will show you how deep the cartel networks have infiltrated other parts of the system you thought were secure, because power built on corruption doesn't collapse quietly. It fights back, it hides, it adapts, but so do the people hunting it, and in the end, the truth doesn't need a courtroom to be real. It just needs people willing to expose it no matter the cost. This is the story of 35 officials who forgot that the law applies to everyone. This is the story of a justice system that was bought, broken, and used as a weapon. And this is the story of the federal agents who brought it into the light. Because in America, justice is not for sale, not anymore.